Good morning, everyone. Glad to be back. I'm going to be creating a series of videos on step work. We are using the green and gold step working guide, the Narcotics Anonymous step working guide, on the questions and maybe answers of the steps. So we're starting with step one. Step one obviously is one of those most important steps. Once it's done thoroughly, it's easier to go through the other steps because it contains almost the most important parts of step one. So we're going to start with the disease of addiction. So the disease of addiction, I'm starting. What makes us addicts? The disease of addiction. Not the drugs, but our behavior, but our disease. There is something within us that makes us unable to control our use of drugs. The same something also makes us prone to obsession and compulsion in other areas of our lives. How can we tell our disease is active? When we become trapped in obsessive compulsive self-centered routines, endless loops that leads nowhere but to physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional decay. Question number one: what does the disease of addiction mean to me? What it means to me it's very important because it is a question that makes me understand, or it makes me question whether do I believe that I'm an addict or not, and do I have a disease or not, But what it means for me, the disease of addiction means that if this disease is not arrested, I am going to die. That is very clear for me. Death, and not only death of a physical nature, the death of a spiritual, mental, and physical nature. Meaning that when I'm dead, in any of these forms, I am not going to be happy at all. I am not going to live my life as I should, as my life was designed from birth. So that means that the disease of addiction means that I hurt people, I hurt myself, I'm susceptible to be hurt, I am compulsive, I am obsessive, I am self-centered, I am greedy, I am, I don't care. I don't care about my life. I resign from things that are important in my life. I do not take care of myself. The disease of addiction makes me to become the lower self. And all that means that not only do I hate myself, but I also hate others. There are many expectations of a simple life, of a natural life, my family, people that have contributed to my life. There are certain expectations that they have done the best that they could to see me living a normal, fulfilled life. But if I'm in addiction, all of this goes out of the window. So for me, the disease of addiction means that I am going to die and I am going to take others with me. So it is very important to understand this question, because understanding it makes me take certain steps. Understanding this question makes me take certain actions that I'll make sure that at least I move from the darkness to the light. So the question number two: how has my disease been active recently? In what way? This question is asking currently, because what could be the current or recently means that I am in recovery, though I might have stopped the drugs no matter how long it could have been, but my disease somehow still kinda resurfaces in the compulsion, in the obsessive behavior. For an example, I might stay too long than I should on TikTok, on my phone, or on anything that I do excessively. So that means that I have to identify exactly what is it that I overdo. I might eat too much. I might obsess about an individual, a relationship. I might shop more than I should. I might sleep more than I should. So meaning that my disease is still active in a way that I am trying to avoid to do certain tasks or to do certain things that I find myself doing some other thing other than being moderate in everything else that I do. Question number 3. What is it like when I am obsessed with something? Does my thinking follow a pattern? Describe. What is it like when I am obsessed with something? So the obsession is not getting enough of something. I obsess with it. I focus on it. Every part of my cell in my body works in this obsession. I think about it. I do everything else that is focused on this particular thing, even if when this thing does not serve me or serve others. I find myself being consumed by this obsession. I find myself focusing and giving all my attention to this one thing that actually distracts me from doing anything else possible or positive. So it is important that I need to understand the obsession. Might be TV, it might be a series, because these are so little things, that takes away the focus from achieving certain things, from dealing with certain things. So what do? I rather watch a series the whole weekend. I rather focus on this one thing that ultimately I feel I have not achieved this very important thing that I was supposed to be doing. Instead, I have been avoiding by doing this that I'm obsessed with. That might also bring certain consequences. Question number 4. When a thought occurs to me, do I immediately act on it without considering the consequences? In what other ways do I have to in what other ways do I behave compulsively? So when a thought occurs to me, do I act immediately without considering the consequences? Yes. When a thought occurs to me, half the time I don't even think about the consequences. What happens is that because of the obsession already, I act immediately. In what way do I behave compulsively? I behave compulsively in a way that I take an action towards what I'm thinking it is the right thing, and knowing sometimes that the consequences might be dire, but without consideration, without considering who's going to get hurt, including myself in that. And I am taking an action. And sometimes this action is happening according to a certain compulsion, because of a certain obsession. I do not think. I'll make you an example. I'm supposed to do something important, and there I am. I'm doing actually the opposite. And I know that if I do this opposite, somebody's going to get hurt. I'm going to get hurt. They're going to get hurt. But I continue doing it. That means that it is only a thought that occurred, and I did not think accordingly as to how is this going to affect me and affect others around me. Number 5, how does the self-centered part of my disease affect my life and the lives of those around me? How does the self-centered part of the disease, the self-centered part of the disease is when I see and realize that I am making decisions, or I'm taking decisions or actions that are only to serve me, forgetting how everyone else has contributed towards my well-being. First of all, my parents, my family, my friends, all my teachers, and everybody else that has contributed to my life. I act in a self-centered way that I am becoming so selfish. I do things as I wish. Sometimes they have advised me maybe to go to school and finish a certain project, finish a degree, finish my high school. But because of my selfishness or my laziness or my other challenges, I decided not to finish. But I still expect to live in the same house. I still expect to be fed. I still expect to be respected by my peers and all. I still expect them to treat me with dignity when I have not contributed to my own life how I want them to treat me, and still expect life to give me everything that I wish for, as though that I have worked for it in that regard. But I have been selfish that I thought I can do it my own way, when there were other ways that I have been advised to take. I chose a path that is completely self-centered, that is based on my selfishness, that is based on the idea that I do what I want. And ultimately, what happens is that I end up being the person that I am, addicted, living life in the gutter. And it affects them because I represent my family. I represent my mother, my brother, my sister, my son, and everything else. And everybody that actually knows me, I represent them. They represent me. They have contributed, even in the most simplest, the most minute way that they have contributed to my life. They have contributed something. I have to be aware, and then I have to be aware that I do not only live my life for myself, I also live for them. They live for me. Yes, being self-centered is one of those things that one refuses to listen. One refuses to take certain steps that improves life. That makes it easier, socially, financially, spiritually, and otherwise, for us to coexist. But because I am Sakian and I'm feeling, they'll never tell me I know it all. And once I am in that state of mind, thinking that I know it all, then it will be difficult for me to listen, to take advice, so that I can better my life.